Hey YouTube, so today we're going to do some upper control arms on a Dodge Magnum. The same process is on the Dodge Magnum, the Dodge Charger, the Chrysler 300. They all have the same setup on the front end. We've done this side over here, so you can see what we're going to be doing, the finished product. But I went ahead and did this side, and I was like, well, let me film the other side. So I wanted to kind of show you something with the new stuff here. You notice you got new rubber there, and you notice there's no play there at all. Okay, and there's no play there at all. All right, over here on the other side, however, and this is the reason for changing these, is see that right there? See how the boot's busted? So what happens over time is the boot will bust, all the oil and stuff will leak out, and this thing will just wear out. It's basically a ball joint, and it wears out. And when you start hearing that, you'll go over bumps and you'll hear it go rubber, 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 rubber. You need to go ahead and change that, because if this breaks, and it can break, what will happen is their whole wheel assembly, wheel hub will fall loose, and you won't have any steering control. So we're going to change that, and we're also going to change this stabilizer bar here in the front. So stick around, get you some popcorn, get you something to drink. It's a pretty easy job, so it won't take too long. I'm going to show you a few little shortcuts to get stuff done real quick and easy, and save you a little time. All right. Now I've done this side here. I've done the other side, but we're going to do this side here. One thing that I do need to go ahead and tell you, when you're doing this, there's some 13mm bolts here on this stabilizer bar here. All right, you want to remove those, because you're actually going to be getting down to a 18mm nut that's down there, and then there's one on this side here. So we'll remove this coolant reservoir first, and then you'll be able to see those nuts. Also, you'll want to remove these 3 nuts here. These are 13mm on this particular car. Maybe different on your car, but you'll want to remove those 3, and that way the strut assembly will drop down. Okay, and then of course this nut here, I believe that's like a 17, or I think it's like an 18 or 19 actually. I think it's an 18. So, and then I'm gonna show you an easy way to get that off too. A couple tools. So these are pretty much some of the tools that you're gonna need to do this job. Although if you have like an air hammer, that makes it easier, and if you have the air hammer attachment for the fork, that makes it easier too. If you don't have that, if you got a big hammer like that, you can get this job done. Nice good hammer, okay? And that way you won't need that, or you won't need that. All right, so first thing we're going to do is go ahead and get this coolant reservoir out of the way. These are 10mm bolts here. Real simple. We'll take that out. We'll take this out. Now we can move this up out of the way. Give me 1 second to move that. We'll be right back. All right, so we moved that out of the way. That gives you access to this bolt here. There's another one on the other side. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this loose here, and that way that'll take all the pressure off of that. Again, this one is that's an 18mm. All right, so let's grab our little gun here. For those of you who don't have any electric guns, you might want to invest in some. Look at that. So quick and easy. All right, now with that loose right there, you can either take your fork, this piece here, okay, with your air hammer, and go in, and that'll force that loose. However, if you don't have a fork or air, now that you have that nut off, you can either take your fork, stick it in there, pop that off. If you don't have a fork, you can take a good hammer and you hit it right there, really good and hard, and that'll come right out. I say, you can take a hammer, hit it a few good times, it'll pop right out. Don't worry about these threads because that's going to come new on the new part. Now that that's loose, we can come up here, we'll take these 13s loose, and that way the strut assembly will fall down, and that'll give us access to the bolt head up in there that you need to hold on to get that off. All right. We'll take these off. Now we'll take our 13 out. That will allow your strut tower to drop down. Once that drops down, that's out of the way. You can have access to that bolt. Access to that bolt. So we'll come here. We'll take this one out, and there's one on the other side of that we're going to take out as well. I'm going to pause and go ahead and take those out, and then we'll come right back to shooting. Once that comes out, we'll come through. You reach up in there and you pull that screw, that bolt out. Alright, we're going to do the same for this side here. We'll do the same for this side here. And then this control arm will come right out. Alright, so once you get that one out, and then you get that one out over there, that nut. You can slide that out. One thing that makes it easier is if you have like a ratcheting wrench. I love this as a product from Gear Wrench. They've got the 19, 18, 16, and 17 on there. So that's pretty neat. Alright, then you can reach in there once you get that other bolt out. And you pull that out and the whole control arm will come out. It's a little stuck. If your bolt's stuck, you might want to take like a little hammer or something and tap that bad boy out. Let me get a hammer and get that out. All right, what you got? All right, so to get this lower control arm stabilizer bar off, what you'll want to do is put you a 22mm wrench on the back to hold the nut. The front of this is, I'm going to use a 19, I think it's actually 18 though. Pull that bolt out. That all falls apart. And that will come right out. You notice that piece is broke right there on that one. So it's one of the reasons why we're changing that. Now to make this easier, I do recommend that we take this nut off here. That way you can release the tie rod in, and that way you'll be able to turn the whole hub assembly. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Now, again, if you don't have the tool, a fork to get that loose, you can take a hammer, tap that real good, and that'll pop that loose too. Okay, here's our arm. All right. We're gonna get a hammer, pop that loose, then we can turn that out, and then we can pop that one loose. Alright, so we're going to take this lower tie rod end off here so that we'll be able to loosen this hub knuckle here. Again, if you don't have a fork, you can take the fork, stick in there with an air tool, or if you have the type of fork, you stick in there and hit with a hammer. You can do that, get it loose that way. But if not, you can just take a good hammer and hit it 1 or 2 good times, and that'll pop right out there. Alright, so now that you have that loose, now you have full control of this piece here. Alright, so we're going to lift it up up out of the way. Again, I'll try to give me a good hit in there and knock that on out. So first, before you do that, you'll take the nut off the bottom, which that's going to be a 22 millimeter. After you get the nut loose, you can take your fork, stick in there, pop that out. If you don't have a fork, you can take a hammer and a few good taps in the right spot. And that'll come right up out of there. Alright, now that we have all that loose, we'll put the new parts together, torque everything down, and that'll be the end of this job. One thing I do want to show you, you'll notice this piece here of that is broken. That's really going to transfer into the steering control of the car. That's one reason why we're changing it. The old, the new, and even here you see how that's wobbly, and you see how sturdy that is. So we're going to put those new components on there and get this job done. One thing about this, once we do get it back together, you will want to get a alignment for the car. Putting it back is basically the reverse of taking it off. The hardest part is getting it off. Also on this particular one, you see that, I do recommend that we change that one as well in there too. So one thing about these Chryslers, you know, they're nice cars, you know, they're pretty easy to maintain, but a lot of times people just won't maintain them, and you know, these are things that need to be changed out on these particular cars. Some cars you don't have to worry about as much as you do on this particular style of car. On this particular style of car, the way the front end is set up, it's recommended that you change all these components at once. If you have any questions or comments, please shoot me a line. Chat, subscribe, share this with the world. I'm going to go ahead and start putting this back together. Y'all don't need to see this, do you? I mean, oh yeah, I guess you do. There's one little thing. Alright, so when you're putting this on, okay, you see there's a hole there. There's a recessed hole there. And this is a lock nut. Alright? So when you're putting this thing on, that cone comes off. When you're putting this thing on, you might get to the point where you can't screw that nut down anymore. So what you do is, this is an Allen key. You take that Allen key and you stick that in there. Alright, and that'll hold that stable while you put the nut on and turn it. I'm going to go ahead and put that part together for you so you can see that in action. Alright, so that goes in there like so. And that goes under there like so. This is a 22 nut. So that's the point I was talking about, where you turn it, it won't turn anymore. And if we do turn it, it's just going to turn the whole thing. So what we do is put that side there. So I need to grow one more arm.
So you have made child support payment.
I'll use my arm here for a minute. So we put that there. Lock that in. And just sit and turn. And that allows you to tighten up this nut on that brace without it spinning around. All right. What's up?
What's up, man?
Not much.
What you doing? Oh, shit.
Did that just take off from Smith Reynolds?
Oh, yeah,
That's a C-130.